All right. So my name is Alyssa and I'm here with Mike, and we wanted to talk about, will AI take my job? So as we dive into this topic, we wanted to start off with asking AI, will you take my job? So as you can see here, we have Gemini's response on the left and we have ChatGPT's response on the right. I'm not going to go through and read it word for word, but the summarized version of it is basically humans are still going to be needed, but our roles will adapt and change depending on the career and depending on the scenarios, because AI can't do things that humans can do. And we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit deeper as we go on to the next slides. So I wanted to talk about kind of two different areas that just technology in general has changed and adapted our lives as humans, and how it's changed our careers or our jobs in that type of workforce. So I'm going to talk about online grocery shopping, and then I'm going to send it over to Mike for the calculator. But for online grocery shopping, this has been around for a while. However, when COVID hit, it kind of really took a large role in our grocery shopping because we needed to be able to shop for our groceries without being exposed to COVID. So how did this technology change our lives? Well, we created more job opportunities in grocery stores because we needed more people to be able to fulfill that grocery shopping role. But on the technology side of it, somebody also needs to be on the back end of it and make sure that things are running smoothly. Are those orders getting received? Are the people getting the job opportunities, like being able to fulfill the orders? Are the systems keeping track of what groceries are there and what aren't in the store? So just in general, we've had just job opportunities on the back end of the technology point of grocery shopping, but then also we also just need shoppers in general for grocery shopping. So this is just a small example of a technology that adapted and changed our job opportunities a little bit. But Mike will be able to talk a lot more about the calculator and how it kind of will show how AI is changing also.
Yeah, I love this conversation too, because I mean, it's a big deal in higher ed, but also outside of higher ed. People are really concerned that they may be losing their jobs. And so the calculator is a great illustration of a technology that changed how we do things, right? It used to be seen as a threat to learning. It allowed quicker and more accurate calculations, which was non-rigorous. But in the past, like, you had to do this by hand, either with an abacus or pen and paper. But technology really came about and has changed the way that things have happened. And even the calculators advanced. Like, my son is in a community college course, and he's using a scientific calculator to graph points for his statistics course that he's taking. And so the calculator is proven to be an essential tool. And while there may have been some jobs that changed because they didn't require mathematicians to do some of the more simple labor, it has proven to equip and make those people who are doing those jobs to do it more thoroughly and faster, and to be more accurate, even as long as those right numbers are punched, right? So technology definitely impacts society, sometimes semi-negatively, but then it usually turns around and creates a lot more opportunities based on its invention. So I really love that about the incoming technology today.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about just some common questions or concerns that come up and we hear often. So the first one is, there's going to be a loss of human connection. And my response to this is, there's going to be a change in human connection, but there won't be a loss of human connection. And some examples I can give are, now that some tasks are going to be automated for managers, leaders, medical providers, they're going to be able to have more time leading their teams, more time talking to customers, more time talking to their the people in the medical profession. It's their type of human connections are just adapting to where they're going to have more time with other humans in different ways. So yes, it's going to change, but it's not necessarily for the worst.
Definitely. Another concern that people have is that certain industries with routine tasks will be changed. That's probably true. When the tractor was invented, farmers, they didn't go out and plow, and oxen lost their jobs, or people who were working for the farmers may have been impacted by that. But AI also can create new jobs in certain areas, like data analysis, AI development, or managing AI powered systems. And even though AI is automated and there's a lot of power that comes with it, it still needs people to check it and make sure that it's producing the right content. So there's even areas like that where you can be fed employment.
Mm-hmm. And the third one is AI will automate away jobs, leading to unemployment. And this one's a little bit repetitive because we kind of touch on it on all of the different concerns. But as AI is adapting and changing and automating jobs, there's also just creating those new job opportunities. Just as we looked at the grocery store and how they've adapted, or how the calculators adapted, that's just how AI is going to adapt the future as well. So we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but it's just going to change.
And like you say there too, I think this is interesting to note that historically technology advancements have led to shifts in the job market rather than outright unemployment. So I think that's really pertinent and something to understand. Another one is people are concerned about the mistakes AI will make. So we know AI was created by humans, so mistakes are probably likely. We've seen examples over the last several years of bias being introduced into AI tools and technologies. But think of all the other things that happen currently in our world. Medical professionals misdiagnose. Engineers may miscalculate. Car producers and mechanics make mistakes. They don't tighten something right, or they don't put it in all the way. Pilots may not always account for the weather changes or the wind or the air pressure, and so you're gonna have flights with turbulence, right? There's so many different mistakes are made every day by people and machines all the time, and so we get to grow and learn and improve over that. So yeah,
and I think one of the big points to note is that just as we work with our colleagues to review additional tasks or see if we're doing things correctly, these AI tools are in a sense like another colleague. There's somebody else to ask for advice or somebody else to review something. So yes, humans are going to make mistakes, and yes, AI is going to make mistakes, but we can limit that by using AI because it's now collaboration rather than you're on your own as a human. But another concern is, will I be left behind if I don't understand AI? And this is something I hear constantly from, like my parents. They're more fearful of how AI is going to affect them, or just like their jobs in general. But I would just encourage everyone who feels this way that there's a lot of different educational resources out there. So you can be left behind, but that's going to be a choice, because there's so many ways that you can learn and adapt and be a part of the change if you want to be. So a lot of educational institutions, there's government agencies that are going to supply just free resources. If you're watching this video, that is just one start to learning about AI. Just as we have to keep up with, other skills in life, this is just going to adapt and be one of those skills that we'll be learning as well.
For sure. And I'll also say that there's so many opportunities to just go out and play and try some of these AI tools. And if you haven't tried one yet, you definitely want to be careful about not giving any personal identifying information to them, but go out and just play, ask it random questions, kind of treat it like Google. Ask it questions about random things and see kind of what it can do. It's pretty powerful in the ways that it can synthesize information and communicate it in really helpful and mindful ways. So the last question, and this is a big one, is will AI be biased? Is it ethical to use? AI can be designed with ethical considerations, and regulation can help mitigate the risks associated with AI and ensure that it serves the collective good. And there's actually a lot of court cases and federal bills and things to try to figure this out. How can we make AI safe and useful to, because they recognize it's useful, but how do we make it the most safe to protect the common good? And there's a lot of conversation around this, but there are tools that provide gated opportunities to use AI, where the things that are being communicated into it and with it are preserved for that company or institution. So if you're a business looking to get started with AI, definitely look for a company that doesn't feed their global AI brain with whatever your company does. You want to have something that's gated and carefully manicured for you and keeps your work information private. But there is a plethora of tools that do that. And so doing some research as you're investigating and looking at AI, and then just be sure that when you're using any of those tools, you're not giving any personal identifiable information, because that will impact how things play out for sure.
Yeah. So we wanted to dive a little bit deeper on how AI has affected us, whether it's our work life or our personal life. So I'm an instructional designer, and it has definitely changed the way that I do things here, but I would say it's for the better. Was it a learning curve? 100%. I didn't know what AI was, when I first became an ID, but I learned and I changed and adapted as I was learning. So some examples I can give is, as an ID, we, in our course process, we have course learning outcomes that we develop. And sometimes these look very much like a rough draft, and I can feel stuck. Like, how do I change this to be better for this course? I can use AI, and maybe I ask it like, hey, I really need to implement a Christian worldview into this course learning outcome. How can I do that? And then I get that feedback from AI, and I don't typically use it verbatim, but it gives me ideas and it helps me brainstorm different ways that I can implement that Christian worldview. And then I can go bring it to a larger team for a larger conversation. So that's one example that I use AI, but I really love it because I'm constantly learning. And as an ID, we're working with various people, various subject matter experts, and I don't always know what the subject is. Maybe it's a criminal justice course and it's about policymaking. I don't have my degree in criminal justice, anything to do with policymaking. So I will use AI and say, hey, teach me about this topic. That way I feel a little bit more prepared as I'm talking to these subject matter experts. It just helps me with my process. And another way is, at LAPU, we have been incorporating AI into our courses because we want students to feel prepared as they're going into the real world after college. So as an ID, I have to also know how to use AI if I'm going to be giving instructions for students to use AI. So I have to stay up to date. That way I can help students stay up to date. And then my last example is kind of a fun example. I've been working on something I'm calling Wellness Wednesdays, where I'm implementing a health and wellness challenge on Wednesdays for remote employees, just to encourage us to remember that we need to take breaks sometimes. So I will use AI to help me brainstorm some ideas or give me a rough draft of, why this is important for remote employees specifically. So that's a little bit of a fun way that I do use it. But all in all, it's, as you can see, it's a brainstorming tool for me, whereas normally maybe I would talk to another ID and ask for input. I can go to AI first, get some input, and then I can go to an ID afterwards, where it takes away less time from other people, but where I can still incorporate them into the process.
For me, I work as the manager of learning technology solutions at Los Angeles Pacific University. So I kind of have to be on top of upcoming and new technologies as they come out. And when Slack GPT came out in, I think it was November of 22, it like was something I just immediately thought, okay, I got to check this out and see what it's about. And I didn't see at first any real use cases for it. And I was kind of like, this is interesting. It's kind of fun. I can talk with a robot and it'll give me fun answers. But I began to use it for work in a lot of different ways. And one of the things that developed out of AI, and I'm going to start with this one first because it makes more sense, is generated graphics. So I love that I can, I'm a graphic designer and freelance on the side on top of what I do. And I love making graphics for things, but it can often be just a time consuming process. You got to brainstorm, ideate, like, okay, I'm going to send out this email and I want a nice header graphic. Well, now with AI, we use Adobe Firefly a lot with our Adobe licenses at LAPU. We are able to like create now graphics really fast, real quick on the fly that I can use to just in internal messaging and even on like some presentations and works that I've done. It just creates graphics real quickly. And I've found that to be super helpful in Slack communications with our staff and faculty in designing different projects. I just need a quick graphic. It's so fast and easy, super fun. But also I use it for creating and debugging code. I'm constantly working in HTML and with Google Sheets, and I want to automate tasks because we're a really small team who do a whole lot of work. And so if I can start a code and be like, hey, why isn't this working? And I can paste my code block in, it'll go in and debug it for me and tell me what's not working or what is. We also just launched AI course assistants in all of our courses at LAPU. And so we did this mass process where we had to go in and create these bots and develop prompts for them and give it information so that they'd be focused on the course content. So that's actually been a major point of my work over the last 2 or 3 months. And I've used AI to brainstorm how to train AI. So how can I best train this AI thing? And it gives me feedback and ideas, and I'm constantly using it to brainstorm different ideas to improve my writing. I even have it often suggest gaps in my content. So like if I'm going to announce something to students, here's this thing, here's what we're going to share with the students, here's the information I put together. What am I missing? What can you add to this? And it would often give me very, very helpful ideas to share more lessons learned with my writing, and it shows me where, oh yeah, these are also benefits that I didn't think about that are very beneficial to the student, and it helps me frame my wording so it comes across really well. Mm-hmm. It's a great tool.
Yeah,
I'm not biased or anything.
So just generally, you can see that like our roles have changed, but they have changed in a sense for the better because we're able to do more things with the help of AI. So we also wanted to touch on just a couple different other career fields. So in education, teachers are using it to brainstorm different creative tasks for their students, but they also are just automating different routine tasks like writing newsletters, sending out those emails to parents, but also just analyzing different student learning styles. So education has a lot of different ways to use it, and that's just a couple. Criminal justice, we've touched on a little bit, and facial recognition, that's something that I learned about because I was working on a criminal justice course and we were applying AI into it. I thought facial recognition was a really cool concept that criminal justice has taken on. So also traffic safety systems, there's different, like when you run a red light, there's some AI features in that, and I don't know the details, but there's something there. A lot of different fields have chatbots. So criminal justice is one of them. It's for the public. When you have general questions, they will be there for you to ask those general questions. They can answer it pretty quickly. Emergency notifications, when something goes wrong and everybody has to be notified, there is some AI behind that, believe it or not. And also another fun fact that I learned was there are bots that are there to assist attorneys, and they call them judge bots. So that's a fun concept. And then the last one that we're going to talk about is sales. So again, just like all these other career opportunities, they can personalize emails for their customers. They have the chat bots just for those general questions. but it's also there to analyze data. So everyone's kind of using it in the same way, but it just depends on their scenario.
Yeah, even in the supply chain management realm of like big companies like Costco and companies that are looking to move a lot of stuff around the world and make sure their stores are populated with content. Walmart uses it to like for theft prevention. Like it's used in a lot of different places. And it's important to note too that AI has been around since the 60s. It's not a new field. What's new is its ability to communicate easily and simply through large language models like ChatGPT. That's relatively new within the last few years, but it's been around for quite a while, and it has been integrated in several systems over time, but it's become more common because of that release.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on healthcare because healthcare is just such a large industry. I have a background in public health, so I just think it's really fun to learn about. But we're going to touch on like kind of what's happening now and what's going to happen probably in the future. So in 0 to 5 years, which this means some of this is happening currently today, and some of it will be a little more perfected in 5 years. But AI can automate time-consuming, high-volume, repetitive tasks. Typically, it can do like X-ray imaging, where it can analyze different X-rays, but it can do hundreds at a time, rather than one doctor reviewing one X-ray at one time. So what it does is it's not going to take away that doctor's position, but it's going to free up that doctor's role to go talk to their patients and provide care to their patients. So that's the biggest thing that AI does, is it's going to free up some of that time. But when it comes to where people are worried about mistakes, the doctors and providers are still going to have to oversee AI. They're not just going to trust that it said something's wrong with this X-ray. It's going to flag it, and then a provider will review it. But the main thing is that it frees up time for patients. And then we're going to look at 5 to 10 years. And as you can see, it's doing the same thing, just on a larger scale. So in 5 to 10 years, rather than just looking at X-rays, AI is projected to be able to analyze health records, blood work, heart monitors, different imaging like CTs and X-rays, maybe even clinical trial data, but all at one time, rather than focusing one thing at one time. So by AI being able to do this, it can accelerate drug development and predict medication responses. And from a provider point of view, again, this will just make a lot more time for patient care. Because as we've talked about before, providers aren't perfect. They're humans. They're going to make mistakes too. But if they have AI as a partner, as a tool, they're going to be able to make better predictions with AI on their side, but also just be able to make more personalized treatment plans for these patients, because as AI can review all of these different data sets, a human may miss, one little data set from that clinical trial. Whereas when AI is their partner, it'll just help everything kind of flow better, if that makes sense. And then in 10
totally
years,
does.
Good.
That's a great explanation, yes.
Perfect. In 10 years, it's kind of the same concept, but now it's just going to hopefully be more precise. So whereas the 5 to 10 years, it can do it, 10 years and plus, it's supposed to actually be able to make predictions. So rather than just kind of giving the data, it's going to make the predictions, analyze all of the data before things even occur. So if a patient comes in with, various symptoms, and it's very common that people don't get diagnosed properly. They have misdiagnoses all the time. But in 10 years, hopefully, with the assistance of AI, we'll be able to be more precise with prescribing medicines, with what they're being diagnosed with. And just interpreting those different data sets will be a lot more smoother than it is now. So again, providers aren't going to be replaced. They're just going to have a quicker process. So patients will be able to hopefully be seen a lot quicker and be cured, or have some answers quicker than they are now.
Something I kind of reference a lot is the idea that, AI is a tool, And yes, it does some things really great and really quickly, but it's a tool. It's like, would you rather have a hammer or a rock? You could hit a nail with both, but one's going to be a lot more effective, and one has some advantages than another. The same thing's true with AI versus a folder full of an infinite number of files, like you're talking about in medical care. One person going through all the history, no one has time to do that anymore. The way that you're waiting for a long time in hospital waiting rooms as it is, the doctor's got to have to make decisions quickly. The AIs can help supplement that process, like you were saying, and take these huge amounts of data sets and then pare them down to finding the most critical elements, even in imaging, which I think is phenomenal. That's a phenomenal use case. So pretty cool. That's a great look ahead. Thanks, Alyssa. I think we went backwards.
Yeah. So the last aspect we wanted to talk about is there are limitations with AI, and this is just to really hone in on the fact that humans are needed. They will not be replaced. So the first one is just common sense. AI just doesn't have common sense. It's trained, and that human interaction is going to be needed to adapt to those unexpected changes that happen. So it's just like a real life scenario. Humans can adapt, whereas it's a little bit more tricky for AI too.
For sure. Originality. Also, AI can be incredibly good at mimicking existing creative styles or combining creative styles, but it really does struggle with being original and the ability to create new concepts or new ideas out of nothing. And really, that's the part of a human, to provide it with data and experience to be able to shape something and create something.
And then the last part is just the human intuition. AI doesn't have that. And the best example I can give is if you're maybe a manager and you're interviewing somebody, they may check off every single box, like on paper. Just like AI may hand you this person and say, this is the person for your company. And then you interview them and something's just missing, that you have a gut feeling that they're just not going to be a good fit for your team. AI is not going to be able to have that gut feeling. So humans are going to be needed. But
that's a funny illustration, because I had a hiring process once where I had a really great candidate, Alyssa, right here below me. She was one of my candidates, and I had another really great candidate. And I was like, man, I don't know which one to go with. And I had to decide based on my gut. They were pretty equal as far as experience and training, but I made a good decision. It was awesome. We're glad that she's part of our team here at LAPU. So yeah, that human intuition is really a very viable and important part of the ownership of AI. Is you have to not just go with what the computer says, right? We have to apply our thought and our thought processes to make sure we're doing things in ways that align with our corporation or our goals or our own personal values. Sometimes AI may not carry those values unless you've put them into the thing from the get-go. You really have to then make personal value decisions when you're dealing with AI results.
That is all we had today, unless you, Mike, have anything else you wanted to add or touch on.
No, I just thanks for bringing up this point and inviting me to speak with you. I think that there are concerns. There are valid concerns and reasons why people have struggled with this concept or idea that AI could be, a thing, and how it's going to impact and affect society. And you can't just look at the good and ignore the bad, but you can't also just look at the bad and ignore the good. There are two spectrums here, and coming to that middle ground, there are a lot of benefits that AI does bring organizations and individuals in their job roles. And it does, like we've talked about today, really create a lot of more opportunity for people to be people and to be more caring with people, because they're not managing as much data. They're not managing as much when I think of I can't think of the word, but repetitive tasks that are time wasters in my world, where it's like, man, I could do that, but that's a lot for me to take on. If a machine can do that stuff for me, why not? Why not free up that time so I can manage people and
Mhm.
encourage people and be present in people's lives? There's just a lot of good things that technology brings to the conversation that I think is worth looking at and considering. So if you are not an AI aficionado, but you're interested or you're curious, man, I just encourage you to go play with it. Treat it like a search engine at this point. Just start to ask it questions, but you can also give it prompts to like ask it to do things in steps. Like I would say, can you help me write a code for this? Do it one step at a time and confirm with me before you move on to the next one. And I actually did that, and I wrote a really cool little program that I had no idea how to write or build,
Mhm.
and it just gave me all the steps, and then it started working, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. And when I had trouble with it, it helped me troubleshoot what was going on and why it was happening. And so just playing with it in ways that are, again, don't give it personal identifiable information, because it is taking that information and assimilating those conversations into its greater knowledge base, but use it ethically in that sense, and explore and have some fun and just kind of see what's possible. It can be a really powerful and unique tool. And like Alyssa and I both have said, it's changed our work, but for good in most cases, and except for when it's made me really busy, but that's okay. That's a good thing too, right? I get paid. So it's a great technology, and it's exciting to be able to talk about with you today. Thanks for inviting me, Alyssa.
Yeah, of course.